All right, guys. Welcome, welcome. What is up, everybody? It's Numer here, and you already know the one and only.
Hello, it's Abby here. How are you guys doing today?
Let's see
So today
here.
we're gonna have Team Firework, and they're gonna be going up against Team GG, I believe is how you pronounce it. GubGub. And we're gonna
Yes,
be
Gub
starting off
Gub.
with the Red Church.
Round one. How are we feeling about that, Abby?
Honestly, the small maps are really good for some more of the meta hunters like your Ivy who can have a lot of map control, and even though it's not back in like season 8 anymore, you would see back in tournaments like Koa 2 and Koa 3, you would often see the Dream Witches on this map. So who knows? We might go a blast to the past and have a potential Dream Witch. And I also do tend to see, typically this is later rounds, not round one, but anything's possible with this tournament. You can see a sculptor on this map because honestly, her chisel can just go right across the map and she can apply a lot of map pressure to other ciphers.
I 100% agree. Abby's spot on with it. Really countering those round one meta pick hunters like Goatman, which is probably one of his weakest maps. Hullabaloo isn't bad on this map, though we haven't seen that get played a lot round one, especially given the type of tournament this is, giving everybody a little bit of experience, kind of learning how competitive works. And I believe we will be watching Team Firework play Survivors first. So that means Abby's favorite Gub Gub will be hunting. So hopefully we can see some off meta picks like me and Abby did see last time with Percy round one and Mad
Mercy.
Eyes round one. So what are you expecting here on Church for your favorite pick? Me personally, I want Clerk. I always will.
You're disgusting, first off, for that one. But that would she actually does work really well on this map. I back when I did another tournament, we had a clerk player named Gold, who was former first clerk. Not to shout him out, but he really exceptionally loved this map. And a lot of times he would just go it like this would be his pick. And she just does exceptionally well on this map because it is really small. She can get from both sides of the map fairly quickly, and sometimes, a lot of times, what the survivors will do is they'll actually mess up their cipher layout, so it'll be a three cipher link. And if you do that against a clerk, you're just pretty much chopped. Like you're kind of cooked because, especially with her just map pressure and also just her ability just to keep on getting recordings, and especially if you have someone already dead, it's just over because you need heavy support on church, especially against a clerk. So honestly, what I'm anticipating, or I should say hoping to see, I would love to see a Dream Witch because of how small it is and just how much pressure she can put on with both leeches and the main body, especially with the patroller, because it would be really annoying for the survivors have to face the patroller, which has a really short cooldown at the beginning of the match. Um, it'd be nice to see a sculptor, I would say. Or we potentially also could see a clown on this map as well, which would also be exceptionally really nice because all his parts are typically, because it's a smaller map, they're just more close together in clusters, and because of his new buff, you can just keep on dashing and just not have much of a punishment for it. And luckily, there are some spots for the survivors if it is a clown to be able to abuse, such as middle with the windows. But because of how small the map is in comparison to, for example, your Lakeside or your Moonlit, the clown with this infinite dash can just get from both sides of the gate just to middle and everywhere else on the map pretty quick.
And I 100% agree. Those are a lot of different off meta option picks that we can see. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even be opposed to seeing a Goatman on Church. Since me personally, when I play rank, I choose Goatman right away, no matter the map if he's open. So I'm very curious to see what these bans will be, and kind of seeing how GG is going to play this, which a perfect abbreviation for Gub Gub. And we will be jumping straight into the round one again, first half on Church, and the hunter will choose two survivors to ban.
Honestly, the more I think about it, Goatman actually could be pretty viable. Even though this is one of his weaker maps, with the ability of his double cage, he can just clear so much ground really quickly. And we're gonna actually see the Magician and a Seer ban, which Magician is a counter to both the Goatman and he does kind of counter the Hullabaloo.
I think at
And
this
we're gonna
point,
see the survivors. Excuse me, what are you saying, Numer?
I think we will more than likely see a Goatman pick based off of the Magician ban, just because even with the Novelist and Mechanic pick, so they're expecting a Goatman as well. But as you know, the top three survivors mainly banned statistic wise would be Mage Puppeteer, and we're going to see that be banned as well. When you see kind of those early picks being Mage, Puppeteer, or even Gravekeeper, you're kind of already expecting that Goatman to come out to play. So I'm very curious to see who they're going to choose for this third survivor. Do you think they'll go with Grave? Guess they
Grave
will.
is actually is a really safe pick into the Goat Man because, even unfortunately, even though if you hit out a shovel, the cage still will be up. It does technically negate a cage hit if you play it correctly. And honestly, I personally think these survivors should try to lock in potentially like a psych who can take a lot of hits and eat a lot of cages for the Goat Man. And we're gonna see the aeroplane is banned, which is actually this is very much doing like a Goat Man because with aeroplane is a lot of times you can actually just outkite the cage with his both his hover and just his jetpacks. It gives you a lot of distance, and you can just keep on moving to avoid those hits based on how big the cage is.
Hmm. And they may choose Antiquarian here, which I will think is a very, very good pick. What the Goatman might opt into because it is a small map may be abnormal if he is confident in his cages or even excitement, willing to chase the Novelist and Antiquarian kind of opens up the map a little bit. I'm very curious to kind of see where exactly they'll spawn. And again, this is, assuming that they do end up choosing Goatman. This is a hard team comp to run going against a Goatman. But again, as long as you can lock down the mechanic early game, or even bring excitement and chase the Novelist and Antiquarian and get it early down, I mean, they do have a lot of potential. As far as builds, Abby, what do you think we're going to be seeing here? Do you think we're going to be seeing double tide, triple tide, only one? What do you think this team strategy will be?
Okay, so obviously the Gravekeeper is going to be on the basic rescue, unless they do go the surprise Sui rescue build, but I highly doubt it. For in terms of the Antiquarian, typically I see antis run the typical broken windows and the BT, or they sometimes it depends on the anti themselves, the player. But a lot of times I'll see the broken windows, but a lot of times I'll also see the flywheel. If they're anticipating a Goatman, I believe they might just go the flywheel to negate a hit. In terms of the novelist, he might run a Sui Tide, and then the mechanic might run Sui Kite as well, just to keep herself alive. And we actually were correct on our prediction. We actually will see the Goatman lock.
Which again just shows that playing Goatman into this type of team comp means you're confident. So I'm very excited to see how Walmart plays here for his team GG. And against a team comp like this, I personally would probably be expecting at least a one-man guarantee. But again, it just depends on how these survivors play. Going with a traditional straight all the way down, one to the right, and BT on Graves. So you were correct about that. We will see the Sui on Antiquarian with Tide. Don't actually end up seeing it on Novelist. Very curious, and you were correct about the mechanic. So we'll kind of see what he does here. Hopefully, Mechanic will drop bot just to kind of distract so she can get away to go towards Graveyard. And they should have pretty decent Cypher Rush with the Mechanic bot being middle. As long as Shaq's Cypher spawns there with Antiquarian there, as well as Novelist back gate. So very excited to see how this ends up going.
It's actually really good they didn't spawn the mechanic at Shack because a lot of times, given based on where you spawn on Shack, just kiting Shack against a Goatman is just it's a bit more open unless you have the one like window right there, and then the two windows going towards the backside of church. But the thing about windows against Goatman is ideally because the cage does make you vault a little bit slower, if it was a mechanic there, she would just ideally either give a really free hit or actually get terror shocked, given how accurate this Goatman's cages were. So allowing her to spawn middle will easily let her go to graveyard, and Novelist is nearby. And so with that, he can support. And the thing that Goatman really struggles against is that support, especially with a Novelist who can just keep farming book and keep pallet stunning, unless this Goatman does have excitement. And the Novelist actually can just keep on breaking cages and double kite with his mechanic to ensure she survives and allow the two others to Cypher Rush.
Yep, if they do end up opting into the early support, Gravekeeper immediately going to be able to see the mechanic, and we will see the bot dropped. May eat a free hit here. Not really much she can do. And again, keep in mind, she does have knee jerk here with a Sui, so she will be able to push Graveyard. It does take a little bit for the second cage to be up, but bot is secure at this point. So the survivors are in a pretty good spot. Now, the real question is can this mechanic last one cage?
The mechanic is actually running back into the Goatman, so we are going to see a fairly early down, but luckily enough, because it is a mechanic and not another decoder like your composer or your lawyer, she does have a bot out, and the bot was last seen middle where she spawned, so due to that, she will be able to keep on decoding while she is on chair, and if this... it looks like the novelist is going to be pressured off his cipher, slowing down the cipher rush a little bit. And it seems like he's actually going to be the one that's going to be going for the save. And we will see it a normal used already at the start of the game with the cipher not being that far long.
Amazing job cheering right there.
Too.
Yeah, has enough resentment, cheering right next to somebody's cipher and going for the abnormal play, which I think is the smartest decision here. Great book by the novelist guaranteeing the free rescue and as well takes the body block. At this point, they do have to make a decision. If they don't believe the mechanic will last again, I would support here. And you're going to see her utilize her knee jerk, trying to push away from the cipher that got abnormaled. And keep in mind, she does still have knee jerk, flywheel to play. Amazing cage by the Goatman, being very, very patient. And we will see the flywheel already being used, but again, great patience by the Goatman. Again, cheering right next to the novelist. Gravekeeper will have to come in for this rescue as he pops his cipher.
Yeah, I don't think it was the correct play to have this novelist continue to push the cipher, because even though he does have a 10% decoding buff when the cipher is pre 50%, he is just going to sit here and he's not going to get that much value out of it. And this Goatman eventually will have a normal backup, but we're actually going to see a free rescue. And this mechanic's going to be 0.75, and Antiquarian will be able to help support, but she has to get closer to this mechanic. But we're going to have Novelist come in for the support as well. Unfortunately, the mechanic does miss her flywheel and gets hit, but luckily enough, there is no excitement, so the Antiquarian, if she does keep on playing fairly close to the survivor, she can actually successfully support. We are going to see her actually have a good flywheel and not get hit, but she is unfortunately going to get locked out. Therefore, we are going to see this mechanic get sent back to the manor fairly early. But she still does have a bot, however, so... Oh, unfortunately, the Antiquarian does miss the swing, and she still
gets
actually
hit under the pallet. Very, very unfortunate. It does look like she is pushing towards God Pallet, where the novelist's cipher is. As long as she's patient here, she shouldn't give a free hit. And should be able to flip over and actually ends up stunning him. Amazing job by her. This Goatman does have abnormal up for play as well as trump card. He's going to try to go for a prediction and actually hits it. Amazing job by this Goatman. And you're going to see this Antiquarian push away from the graveyard, as that is going to be one of the last two ciphers here. Amazing mind games by the Antiquarian. And I believe that at this point, she doesn't end up stunning, which is very unfortunate. But they do still have Gravekeepers tied in play here. Very curious to see what the Goatman does here. He could still opt into teleporting or just pushing the graveyard cipher. Ends up going with a 3 cage. Wow, amazing job by him. Great flywheel from the novelist as well. He's going to end up dying.
It's really unfortunate, and he still has a normal up actually. So even though that cipher is 70%, there still is a potential for the normal to be used, and this is actually going to be an after half rescue from the Gravekeeper, which will put more pressure on the survivors as a whole.
Though they do have a lot of progress on these ciphers, it is very unfortunate that they were pushing backgate as Mechanic got chaired there twice. It definitely slowed down the game a lot, but they still have an opportunity as Novelist picks himself up to go ahead and pop Graveyard. And at this point, Gravekeeper's just trying to waste as much time as possible on this rescue. He does have Tide, and Antiquarian does have Stick. He ends up hitting the chair. Amazing job. So we believe the cage will run out as well. Though they are cornered if they do stay here. Will they be able to take a body block? Stuns into the Gravekeeper. Amazing. Super far to get to that last cipher. Antiquarian still has Flywheel in play now, as well as a little bit of Stick with these two pallets. Very curious to see how she's going to play this. And she ends up getting the pallet stun as well. Keep in mind, she does have a Sui build.
We're going to see the Novelist rotate to the final cipher. Hopefully, really great flywheel, actually, ensuring that Antiquarian can step up. And she still has Stick, which she does use. Gravekeeper is still nearby and is able to take body block hits if needed. He's actually going to opt to use the shovel to try to take a hit for this Antiquarian. And we are going to have the Novelist on the final cipher, but unfortunately the Grave does still get hit.
Keep in mind the Antiquarian does have a Sui build, so at this point they should just opt into popping the Cypher as soon as possible. She ends up getting the stun, but will not be able to last for long. And they do end up popping, possibly guaranteeing a one-man here. Depends on if the Gravekeeper can last.
We're gonna see the Gravekeeper try to push the gate, but because Detention Wish has popped that gate, it's just not gonna be enough. But luckily enough for this Gravekeeper, there still is dungeon back here, but this Goatman still has resentment, therefore he is able to use another cage, but he actually is
Still
likely
has
gonna
trump card
outlet
into
the
play.
cage.
Yeah, he will. His second cage as well, endgame. Very, very crucial here by the Gravekeeper. And the Antiquarian actually picks herself up as well. We still, again, have trump card into play, so this is more than likely a three-man by the Goatman side, but they at least guarantee that one, not giving the 5-0 to the Goatman. These survivors are really, really doing an amazing job, especially this Antiquarian. Ends up losing that mind game, but well played by the Goatman side, and he will end up sharing D2. Gravekeeper self-heal almost being done. Has no abilities. Abby, what is this looking like to you?
It's looking like a 3k unless somehow this Goatman does actually lose this Gravekeeper, which this Gravekeeper will opt for hiding, and he's actually able to hide and might be able to get to dungeon. But unfortunately, Goatman still does have another cage, so unfortunately he will die, but we do actually see the one-man escape, which will, as you mentioned earlier, Number, not give the Hunter side 5 points, instead it'll only give them 3, and the survivors still will have a 1-point lead, so if their Hunter is able to bring in the 4K and get that 5-0 for their team, we will see Team Firework actually winning round 1.
And again, amazing job by the survivors. Again, can't give enough credit to this Antiquarian kiting as long as possible. Amazing support by the Gravekeeper as well, taking the hit endgame to allow that Cypher from 80% to get to, finish. And the Gravekeeper kiting 2 cages endgame was very, very crucial to allow that Antiquarian to get up. It's just guaranteeing satisfying that one man. Would have definitely been exciting to see a draw come from these survivors, especially with that early game. But go, man, guys. One in doubt, he's just going to cage it out.
Exactly. Unfortunately, he did still have resentment right there, because if there was no more resentment for that cage, we actually probably likely would have seen a dungeon escape from this Gravekeeper, unless the Hunter was able to was able to swap from a normal to potentially a blink and try to do a blink trick, but ultimately they played it really well, especially with that endgame with the Gravekeeper support, trying to keep that Antiquarian alive as long as possible, given she did have a Sui build. And that's the ultimate downside of Sui builds when you are in tournament, or even just in rank in general. If they get that final kite, it's really, really difficult because you can't just pop and give them that borrowed time to ensure they live. Like, they don't have it. So you have to be very strategic in how exactly you pop, which I'd say they popped as soon as they could and as well as they could given the circumstances. Because as you said it earlier, that Gravekeeper did still actually kite out 2 cages, which was really well played from the Gravekeeper, but unfortunately, the Gravekeeper still did die fairly close to that Antiquarian, so even though she picked up, she was not able to last long, and she had no item as well.
Yeah, I think in a situation like this, depending on who the Team Fireworks Hunter is, I would be a little bit lax knowing, minimum I need is a three kill. And if I end up getting this 4K, it'd be very, very crucial for my team. They can play a little bit safer going into the second half of round 1, knowing that, at least they got one out. That's depending on if they do end up playing meta. Very curious to see what this team is going to end up opting in. And even if they do end up playing off meta, will they be able to get this 3K or even 4-man? I'm very excited to see kind of also how these GG survivors are going to play. I believe one of them is dual faction, so well, we're working on getting loaded in here, and very curious to see who we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping for maybe even a geisha. I know that might sound crazy, but I wouldn't
She
mind,
has
like you
some
said, Dream Witch.
crazy I would say Geisha has some really crazy, like, wall dash tricks on this map, or any of the maps, honestly, if you are a very experienced Geisha. So Geisha, the element of surprise with Geisha, the round 1 off meta pick, it does actually work fairly well unless their survivors are expecting that, if they've done their research on the enemy hunter. But I honestly still just want to see a Dream Witch for this map. I feel like Dream Witch, if played correctly, could really capitalize because she just has just so much map pressure. And she also just with the patroller and like the lack of cooldowns, you can just keep on patrolling. So even if you are getting kited a little bit, you can just kind of rely on that patroller to help end that kite as soon as possible. And then you can just keep on leeching on other survivors and just keep on applying pressure because they're gonna have to not only de-leech, they might have to heal as well, but they also still have to decode and rescue while doing all that. So it's honestly just a lot of mind gaming and just a lot of multitasking because with hunters like a Dream Witch, like your Hermit where you have to watch your health, like your Clerk where you have to not only help support each other but also watch your recordings. It's generally just a lot of multitasking, and even your Ivy as well, which Ivy does work fairly well on Church because the Yithian is actually able to travel pretty quick through the map given how small it is. So it's really
Mhm.
fun to watch hunters like that just have to multitask and also have to watch the survivors multitask and just obviously just keep themselves alive as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, I would say if there's anything I could have changed about that round one would more than likely be not running mechanic, maybe having Greaves spawn middle, and then running another, wild card like Enchantress. If you know you're going against a goat man, things of that nature. But anyways, we'll be jumping straight into the second half. We're actually gonna see a priestess potentially and a seer get banned, kind of opting into, you know, potentially a off meta pick, and we will see them get banned. So very curious to see how these survivors are gonna build their team comp based around. And wow, right away, not hesitating, going in for Abby's favorite mercenary and mechanic. I feel like we're back in, I don't know, 2018. How are you feeling, Abby?
Okay, first off, Mercenary is not my favorite. First Officer is my favorite. Second off, no, I honestly do kind of feel like I'm back in like the old meta, back in like Koa 3, because you're gonna see the Priestess Seer ban, which, if you remember from back in those days, even though I make us sound really old, it would always be the Priestess, the Seer, the Merc, and even potentially the Forward that were always mainly banned. And we're actually gonna see the Mechanic and the Merc locked in first. And we're
With a
actually gonna see the
forward
Forward
ban.
ban!
Wow. And we're gonna see a perfumer pick, guys. This might be
Oh
the
my
old
god,
meta. I'm
this
very
is
excited
old
to
meta.
see.
I miss this
What is
old
the next
meta.
one?
I would say this
What
is
will
what
be
you would
the
always
next?
see locked in for like the Dream Witches back then. Are they
At
anticipating
this
a Dream
point,
Witch? Are they
I
anticipating a Dream Witch? Please be a Dream Witch. I'm begging you.
I don't know. I think with the perfumer pick, they're thinking more of a high chase hunter. We could
Mm-hmm.
potentially see anybody like Opera on Church because you never know. And then it looks like the hunter didn't actually end up opting into banning anyone as that fourth one. Maybe they ran out of time, but no worries. We're gonna
We're gonna
see
see a
Fire
firework.
Investigator get chosen coming into that new meta, which I love to see.
I just love how much distance he can gain, and I also love in church how you can ball off the entrances to church. So it just gives you so much distance, and it also just kind of screws over the hunter ultimately. So if you're either getting chased or if you're helping support a teammate, it just honestly works really well. I have a question though. If there is potentially a geisha, is she able to actually dash through the ball? Like if there's like a little crack, like if she can see vision, is she able to dash through the ball or will she get blocked?
She will get blocked, but it also depends on when it is set down. If it's during that animation phase, she can phase through it. It is possible. But I guess,
Okay.
if they do end up choosing Geisha, then I guess we'll find out. But we will see from this mercenary, they are bringing their build named Tide 2. Very curious how aggressive this Tide 2 is versus Tide 1. And oh my goodness, we are going to
We're
see
seeing
a
a
clerk
clerk.
get locked in as round one. This is amazing news, guys. I need everyone jumping up and down right now. We're about to be watching a clerk go against Merc, Mech, Perfumer, and Fire on Church round one, which again, she is actually pretty strong on Church, especially with it being a smaller map. Her cipher pressure is going to be lethal. Whew, I'm excited. Talk about these builds, Abby. How are we feeling?
Okay, so we're actually going to see two Sui builds. We're going to see it on the mechanic, which makes sense. You want to keep her alive as long as possible. And we're going to see it on the fire investigator, which you do tend to see that a lot. You want him to still have that flywheel so he can still ensure he does not die. But you will also see him run on tide because he can technically be a secondary rescue, using that ball to close the distance between you and the hunter and efficiently get in and out of that rescue. And we're going to see the perfumer run the classic flywheel, which Perfumer, you see 50-50. Sometimes you see Perfumer run broken windows, sometimes you see her run flywheel. It's based on personal preference of the player themselves. And then we're gonna see the classic, the Tide with the Merc. Maybe he's running Max Shelter. I know because of the persona changes, a lot of rescuers, especially your Merc who does have a healing debuff, you will have them actually just run Shelter because if they get down, they can just pick themselves right back up and go again. But I don't know. It's Tide 2, so maybe it's a lot different from Tide 1. I have absolutely no idea.
And I guess we'll have to find out. For those that are confused or just joining us, we are watching the second half of round 1 on Church. We will be watching GG Survivors play against Team Fireworks Hunter. And we'll be jumping straight into the match. We see bottom right, aka Graveyard, is where Clerk spawn. Above her will be Perfumer. To her left at Reception or Wedding will be Fire Investigator. We'll see where the Clerk chooses to go.
I'm actually really surprised they will spawn the Fire Investigator not middle to help give it that really early game support. But we're gonna see this Clerk opt to chase the Perfumer first. But Perfumer is doing a really good job hiding, so therefore this Clerk has not found her yet and is just searching around Backgate. But this Perf is actually counter-rotating back to the Hunter spawn towards Graveyard. And because of that, the Clerk eventually just gives up on trying to find Perfumer and is now opting to chase the Mechanic Doll. And that will just allow her to actually efficiently chase the Mechanic if that it's killed. And we're gonna see a recording already used.
And it looks like the Mechanic ended up giving up on the bot. Somehow doesn't get hit here, but will go down. Amazing try to mind game there. And amazing job by the Perfumer rotating properly. Looks like she will end up getting the recording on middle. And Clerk does know where the mech is, but they're playing the classic mech. You drop and run, as per usual. And it doesn't look like the Clerk did end up finding the Mechanic bot a second time. Was able to see. Oh, doesn't end up actually finding her.
She didn't see the Mechanic? You could see her little antennas. Oh, wow.
It looks like Joseph's vision is coming into play, but that is a-okay. She is putting pressure on the ciphers and not allowing the Fire Investigator to code, and it looks like they will be in chase here. Ciphers are moving a lot, not allowing that, no one to get hit right now. Does allow Mechanic to do a lot, but Fire Investigator ends up missing.
But it actually works.
Amazing job by the Fire. And very unfortunate by the Clerk. And she, with her insane hitbox, ends up actually missing, but does an amazing blink like Michael Myers. Very scary. But you're going to see the amazing ball that the Fire Investigator set down. Going ahead, gonna push Reception, I believe.
He still has his ball top broken, I believe, as well. So he can rely on that. Unfortunately, though, the Mechanic Doll is there, and he is going to just keep on kiting. He might opt to try to kite back to his ball in Graveyard, and because this Clerk has no blink, he actually might be able to use it. Uses the flywheel to get to the ball.
Rolls into a pumpkin, but is able to get out and will be pushing the God Pallet. At this point, he will have to win a 50-50 mind game and ends up just dropping it right away and ends up getting hit. Amazing job by this Clerk. And again, guys, don't forget, Clerk is not that strong early game. It's more of her mid to end game that really make a killer difference. And it looks like they will be getting cheered on Perfumer Cypher as well, which looks like it's about half. And that is one of their Tide turners as well that got cheered. So it's either the Perfumer's going to have to rescue or they're going to have to send in this Merc with Tide. Very curious to see what they do here.
They're actually going to opt to have the Mercenary, who is close nearby, go in for the save. And we're going to see the Perfumer swap out with the Merc and go take over his Cypher. Ciphers are actually moving pretty efficiently. We're about to get down to 2 ciphers, and we're still only.
And they end up getting Oh my god! Amazing job by this Clerk, playing the 50-50 mind games here, not falling, and ends up trying to drop the pallet on the Survivor. And there goes full presence, I believe, if they did not have it already.
Yes. Really
and
well
we will
played
see
by
here.
that Clerk.
Amazing job, and obviously we will be seeing a double down here as the Fire Investigator will not be able to make it to his ball again. Again, they only have 2 ciphers remaining, and one of them is about to pop. Knowing that this rescue was before half, I believe, they're still in a good position. It looks like someone can go in for the next rescue. The only unfortunate thing is that one of the ciphers is, where the Fire Investigator is getting cheered on. And it looks like he may even be able to struggle. No, he does not. And again, with one of the ciphers 68, which will be Shaq, very curious to see what this team is going to do here. They may even send in the Perf and Merc, maybe to body block, or they might just send 2 people to decode the cipher machine based off of Clerk's control.
They're ultimately gonna have to decode double if they do want to get this final cipher prime because of this Clerk's just ability to just keep on pressuring and recording. And we're actually gonna see this perfumer go in. Is she gonna get terror shocked as well? Because it's a very close chair. She luckily
doesn't actually end up perfuming.
But there is still blink available.
But we do see that the cipher is at 93%. Very curious of what she will do here. She does have blink up as well as trump. They're working on 2 different ciphers, putting a lot of pressure on this Clerk right now. Amazing job elbow padding there by the mercenary. We'll be able to end up recording her and maybe even be able to pick up perfumer here. And the cipher will actually end up getting locked. And she will be cheering on the other cipher. They may have to start another one, guys, depending on how this Clerk plays her mid to end game. Very curious to see what they'll do here. They may even send the fire investigator to go get healed up to utilize his tide for this end game.
He is actually near the bot, so there is a chance to get healed, but he's actually going to set up for the gate instead, and the cipher is exactly primed. And if this Clerk realizes that she might force pop, but she's actually not. She's just going to opt to hit, and they're going to be able to pop the cipher with a 4-man endgame.
Amazing job by these survivors, playing very, very patient, not being rushed by this Clerk. And we already have someone working on the gate, and it is 50%, but it does end up getting locked. Like Abby said, we still have blink in play, as well as trump card. If they can get this early down on perfumer, they may even be able to teleport. And no, she actually ends up blinking, but the perfumer perfumes back in time. Amazing job by this perfumer. Still has FIWO into play and ends up actually using it. May even be able to get the pellets done. And she does. Amazing job by this perfumer, guaranteeing a 3 escape here for these survivors. Amazing job, I believe, by GG, who will be winning round 1.
I'm still honestly really shocked because even though there was a terror shock at the beginning from this mercenary, it didn't even matter because they just still had so much ciphers. And honestly, we do see Mechanic just with her bot. Somehow the Mechanic was actually not able to be found. I'm very shocked, but because of that, she was just able to use bot to decode, and that's essentially just having another survivor on the field because you just can only keep on applying so much pressure as Clerk. But if there's just an extra survivor like that, even if someone is chaired, it's essentially just the equivalent of not having someone chaired because you just still have another person decoding. So that's ultimately still like 3 people decoding while someone's on chair.
Wow, I think my jaw is just dropped watching that perfumer prediction blink actually changing the game here, allowing these GG survivors to get a 3 escape, as their hunter did get a 3k as well. So we will see the point difference in them winning round 1, as well as being up 6-2 is very, very crucial going into this round 2. Again, not having a lot of pressure on them, but putting a lot of pressure on these Team Firework survivors and hunter. Very curious to see what map they'll choose round 2 and what type of team comp. What do you think, Abby, they'll switch it up, maybe go for more of a harassing supporting meta here, or meta pick plays here, just so that they can try to, guarantee a potential 3 escape for this round 2 to essentially, push it into round 3 or even a draw.
Honestly, they need to be a bit more proactive in their approach and just play more aggressive because they are essentially just behind in points by a lot. As you said, it's 6-2, and because of that, they really need to close that gap. And with today's meta, you can't just solely rely on your hunter to keep on consistently getting 4Ks to help close that gap. The survivors also now have to more so pull their own weight because, I mean, many people will argue this, but more so, it's a lot of more of a survivor-sided meta nowadays, and because of that, we're just gonna have to see these survivors take a more proactive approach, and they can't settle for that 1-man anymore. They need to settle for minimum that tie, but ideally you want to go for that 3K, that 3-man escape. And because of that, either you have to have a flawless kite that's at least 3 ciphers, or you're gonna have to have just really good harass that will help on keeping that kite going. But ultimately, I feel like they're gonna opt in for more of a harass heavy, or just even not even you don't even need to go harass heavy. You might just go support heavy, and with that, You could see the potential for the catapults with the toy merchant, you could see the stuns with the forward, or even potentially the wildling as well. But ideally we have no idea until we see what map they pick and also who hunts first and just what gets banned. But honestly, I would love to see a forward. I don't You don't see forward as much. You don't see that many harassers as much unless it's your classic antiquarian, which you'll see round one here and there. But ultimately, it would be really nice to go back to, again, like the old meta we were mentioning earlier, and see that forward harass and see just how well it pairs into these hunters. Because although forward does not do that well against meta, he still does traditionally fairly well against the older metas when he was, again, more popular. But ultimately, we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, it really just depends on if they're going to be playing this off meta continuously. I think even for the GG survivors, though they're in a good spot, they could even run a potential support harasser team comp as well. Kind of just, putting a nail in a coffin, but we can't give up on these Team Fireworks survivors and Hunter. They still have a chance to change the tides of the game. And I believe that um, we will be seeing GG pick the second round map. So they're going to be working on that. Now, as far as these survivors and hunters, you know, GG's to both of them. I think for this mercenary, though, I would probably run Tide 1 just for next time. Um, just because this clerk was not for the games today. Amazing job changing the game right there, shaking up the survivors. But even with that terror shock, you could see a additional body block there at one of the pallets, as well as they just weren't shaken up. They weren't stressed due to how well they performed with the early rotations, and really mechanic not being found with the Joseph vision kind of changed the game essentially, because then you end up chasing a fire investigator who is very, very strong, whether it is on meta or off meta. And you could even see, even with the missed ball getting pushed back, still doesn't end up getting hit. Very unfortunate for the clerk. But hopefully they're not too demotivated, and I'm excited to see what they're going to be running in this round too, and what they'll choose as well.
No, honest to
How's it looking
God,
for you?
that fire investigator getting chased, that was the best circumstance for the survivors. Because with mechanic going into a clerk has, those pallet recordings and those window vault recordings, and because of that, mechanic, who already has slow vaulting and slow pallet throwing, she just struggles immensely into clerk. And because of that, the fire investigator, who does get that distance and can just keep on using ball to either A, block the hunter, or B, propel himself forward to a different kiting area. As we saw, he went from top broken all the way towards the outside of reception, which eventually let him actually get into graveyard. It just really, those distance gaining survivors like that fire investigator into that clerk, it just works really well because Clerk is not
Hmm.
as much of a mobility hunter, for example, like your Opera or like your Percy, who can just close that distance really quick. So the
Hmm.
more distance you gain, that, and also he was cutting line of sight, so she wasn't able to record him as much. And even if she did, ultimately he was just kiting in the open with his ball. So those recordings he got, they just didn't mean anything to him because he just was like, okay, well, I'll just keep on balling. Like, what can you do about it? And ultimately, she couldn't do anything about it until she had her trait up and just had to opt to use the trait. And regardless, he still did do a really good kite. And because of that, that terror shock, and it just didn't really mean that much. And luckily, it was a Merc who got terror shocked, because if it was any other, rescuer, that just would have been really, really bad because they wouldn't have been able to get that save at all. It would have been an after half, and that just would have put a lot more pressure on the survivors as well.
Yeah, and like you said, something that should have been game changing got minimized due to those early rotations and the fire investigator getting chased. I think if that hunter watches that game back and just looks to the left a little bit, opens up that vision, it would have been a completely different game if the mechanic ended up getting chased. But again, kudos to those survivors playing really, really well, really, really patient, and guaranteeing a 3 escape in round 1, which is very, very crucial. Now, we will be seeing, I believe, Gigi's Hunter go again in that round 2, but, first half. So, and we will be seeing Ever Sleeping as well. So I'm very, very excited to see how these teamwork or these team firework survivors are going to play going into this round two. Hopefully, we'll be able to see people like Weeping Clown, like you said, Abby, forward, people who can kind of subtly change the game depending on where these survivors go. Keep in mind, globally banned will be Goatman on GG side, Team Fireworks side, Mechanic, Gravekeeper, and Novelist. So we may even be able to see Abby's favorite, FO, get chosen as one of the main rescuers going in round two.
I really hope so, because FO is just genuinely just such a strong kiter and even rescuer. Well, he's more so obviously a rescuer, but he can kite fairly well as well. But the only problem with FO for I'd say hunters he does struggle into is, for example, Wu Chang. Just because of one, the bell and also white guard hitbox, he will just keep on sitting there and just holding charge attack. And we're actually gonna see the clerk get banned. They don't want to have to deal with that cipher
Wow.
blocking, and we're gonna see the hunters actually get a ban, both seer and the antiquarian. He does not want that support or that harass potential at all.
Which is typical, especially with those first two picks. And look at that. Potentially Abby's favorite getting chosen as one of the first two picks, and Meteorologist as well, who is a game changing survivor with her support, her heal, as well as her kiting ability and decoding.
She works really well on Eversleeping as well, because there's a lot of walls, like, for example, the graveyard walls, you could just easily fly over, so you force that hunter to take a few seconds of their time to either have to walk around said wall, or if there's a window, have to walk and vault that window. So it just eventually just gives her more distance, and we're actually going to see a prospector ban.
Definitely out there in the realm of and potentially. I can't think of anybody in particular who else would get countered by
I sometimes
Prospector.
see Night Watch ban him. I don't know why. Night Watch players tell me why, I don't know. I've just seen a lot of Night Watch players actually opt to ban the Prospector. And we're gonna see
Got
an
it.
Explorer lock.
Which is definitely a wild card here, running first officer as well as meteorologist, but it is not a bad pick depending on what type of team fireworks strategy they have going here. And then we're going to see the archer get banned as the last pick, knowing how crucial she is with her harassment. Very, very curious to see if these team fireworks survivors are going to continue going on with this plan, or are they going to throw in a support to kind of change and rattle the hunter a little bit. And oh
We're gonna
my
see the
goodness,
batter. Wait, no, we're
not get
not.
chosen? Potentially, maybe.
We're gonna see
And there
Lucky
goes
Guy
Lucky
chosen.
Guy. Wow. And a
Lucky Guy
lot of
is
people have been
honestly
saying,
optimal now.
oh, yeah, everyone's been saying he's S tier. Abby, kind of give me your thoughts on that. And do you agree with the Japan meta?
Okay. Okay. So personally, I think Lucky Guy is really good. And the reason why I think Lucky Guy is really good is because he can assume any role you want him to be. If he's getting chased, he can get that elbow pad to gain distance, or he can get that perfume to negate that hit. If he's not getting chased, he can be that rescue. He can get that flare gun or even that pocket watch to try to get a no damage rescue to help. Or he can even be that decoder. He can wish for that bot and be essentially your mechanic. And we're actually gonna have a pause, so there potentially was a mistake on that Lucky Guy pick, unfortunately, which I really hope not, because I really actually do want to see a Lucky Guy. Lucky Guy is he's very viable now, honest to God. Again, like I mentioned earlier, he can be any role you want him to be.
I'm very, very excited to see. Clearly, it does seem like a mistake. So I do believe the two teams are communicating with each other right now to see if um, Team GG will allow a restart for the Team Fireworks survivors. But I do believe so. With them being up so much, at this point, it would just be a courtesy. And it does end up looking like they will allow that restart. So we will jump straight back into, you know, picking and banning, which everything, again, if you guys don't know, will stay the exact same up until the last chosen survivor. So even the last ban for Archer will still be confirmed and cannot be changed. And I'm very curious. It looks like they won't run Lucky Guy, Abby. So will they opt into that batter? Or will they go for more of a lighter support who doesn't suffer as much due to decoding?
I'm not entirely sure. I feel like a big reason of why they picked that batter was because of the Archer ban, which Archer would be your essential harasser. And because of that, I feel like batter honestly could efficiently work, but he does obviously get countered by some more of the like meta picks, but Goatman's not out, so I don't feel like it would be that bad of a matchup, but I feel like the only issue with picking that batter, however, is because we already do have the FO who does have a slight decoding debuff, unless he uses his watches, which will negate that debuff a bit. We will just we'll have a little bit more of a slower decoding, and because of that, we're gonna have to see that first kite be a bit longer. But honestly, batter can go in and harass to ensure that first kite does last longer, but we're gonna have to see because they might still go the batter or they might just completely switch it up.
And I want everyone to keep in mind, if you are going to go that batter, you could also interchange that with forward. We also have, if you want to go with a lighter decoding team comp, we still have people like Cowboy. We still have people like Weeping Clown. Aeroplanist doesn't really support, but he can help out with if they need that rescue. Kind of just, those random off picks. I mean, even Knight would be essentially viable depending on if they think they're going against an off meta with that clerk ban. Just a few different ideas. Even entomologists can support really well without suffering the decoding. Enchantress as well. I mean, these survivors have a lot of different options, even could opt into the coordinator based off of that build that they're running with meteorologist, explorer, and first officer.
Mhm. I
Painter
completely
could help
forgot about
out.
Enchantress as well. Enchantress could actually work fairly well into this comp, especially with Hunter like Hullabaloo. If we do actually see that Hullabaloo opted for on this map, she's very strong into kiting him, and she also can support fairly well into Hullabaloo because she'll just keep on standing there and keep on getting stacks because it takes 3 balls to make someone get injured with him.
And call me crazy, but you could even choose Thief. Now, I know it's not church, but for those Psyche mains out there, I'm sure you're excited to hear that.
No, Psychico is so crazy for the thief. It's actually really funny, but I've seen him cook as thief. I've gotten him in my rank matches, and I've seen him kite up Percy as thief. Don't ask me how. I don't understand, but I mean, if you can do it, I feel like you can play anyone as long as you can make it work and you just don't get hard countered. And if even if you do, you know how to work around that hard counter. We're actually
100%.
gonna see the Enchantress loft like we were talking about.
And there you go. Like you said, we're going to see that Enchantress get picked, which isn't too much of a surprise because based off of their current team comp, you do have First Officer, which mid to end game does get better with decoding, as Abby had said previously. But when you're running a team comp, knowing you need a 3-man, you want to run someone who can support if needed, doesn't suffer decoding progress, but also can kite. And that's exactly what Enchantress is, everything in that bunch. And the reason why I pointed her out was due to if Clerk is banned, they're expecting off meta, right? They're not expecting a hullabaloo. And if they are, this team comp wouldn't be too bad against him, depending on what these builds look like. So I'm very curious to kind of see what they'll opt into. Also, very curious to see, will Team GG's Hunter run what Abby wants to see? What do you want to see on Ever Sleeping, Abby?
In terms of ever sleeping, I would like to see Hullabaloo into this comp and see how well it can go because I know Hullabaloo would tend to like struggle into this comp, but sometimes hunters just don't care. It will go something that would technically on paper struggle. And we're actually gonna see the Night
Oh,
Watch. I was right. I told you with the prospector ban. I don't know why. I'd have to ask this hunter, but Night Watches love to ban prospector. I don't understand why. Is it
and now we're
because
gonna see.
he
Yeah,
dashes and like can they put like I mean he can push him back with the dash. Is that why? Like I don't understand. I'm not fully sure.
yeah. There's a few different things. The thing is about Prospectors, he kind of fits that bubble as we're talking about Enchantress as well. Think about it when you kite, right? You can cancel the win with a magnet. Even with
Mm.
his presence or full presence, it doesn't matter because depending on how you play it with flywheel or a magnet in general, you can cancel out that ability. It kind of negates his high chase essentially. And I'm very curious to see how these survivors are going to play. Not having the Prospector, but going to choose Enchantress, who is similar in that aspect. But the thing is Prospector with full presence can still live and not give a hit. Enchantress, unless she has a 3-stack, that 1-stack won't do much.
And we're actually going to see this Night Watch spawn right above this Explorer, which, unfortunately with this spawn, Explorer's kind of out in the open, so he will be a little bit vulnerable. They maybe could have opted to have him spawn middle and hide around the pallets. Unfortunately, with the Ever Sleeping, however, it's just there's not that many patches of grass like your Leo's Memory, so it is a bit harder for your Explorer to efficiently hide. But we're gonna see this Meteor actually opt in for just hide. She's not gonna run a Sui Tide, so essentially she's gonna be their secondary rescue. And the thing that's gonna be really nice about Meteor is she can easily, if she's getting cut off early, she can fly. Or if she's near the chair and she doesn't want to give a free hit, she can just easily just push the hunter back. And because of that, it's just there's a lot of potential for a no damage rescue, which would be really nice. And even if she does get damaged, it doesn't matter because she still actually has the Rain Cloud. And I'm honestly opting that this Night Watch will chase this Explorer like first, because this Explorer is either gonna have to somehow try to rotate into Graveyard, which I seriously doubt, or they're gonna have to try to route their way towards S Palette, because that's gonna be their nearest honest kiting area, unless they try to run
I will
up.
say they will spawn under 2-story, so they do have the route of just going straight around the building if they do believe that the Night Watch won't push middle. But like you said, they're going to go up 2-story. They will hide as well. And, you know, this may or may not work. The Hunter does have early tinnitus, so I'm very curious to see what they will do. And they do actually go upstairs looking for the Explorer. Will they be able to find him?
Actually,
and
he's
I
not
don't
able to
believe
find
so.
him.
Wow, amazing job by this Explorer over here on Team Firework side. And I'm sure that they're still communicating as he still is in book as to where he is, allowing at least all 3 survivors to decode. And at this point, there should be a communication, which it looks like there is, and he will be chasing the first officer. How are we feeling about that, Abby?
Honestly, unless this actually good Palace Sun first officer can easily just use Watch, which he's actually not using Watch right away, which will allow this Night Watch to catch up and honestly give a hit.
Oh!
And he actually is able to negate the hit by watching right in the Hunter's face.
Oh, Abby, have you tried that one out in rank?
I have not watched in the Hunter's face.
Oh my!
Another pallet stun! Oh my god. And unfortunately, the FO is now on cooldown with Watch, so he will be getting hit here fairly soon. And now he only has a single pallet to work with and is kind of running out in the open, so he's honestly going to die really soon in this. And he's just going to opt to not use the Watch and just use it for rebound off a chair, which was really smart play, because if he would have watched, there was, I'd say, roughly about a 90% chance he was going to get hit. And luckily, Meteorologist actually popped the Cypher. She's able to go for save right away.
Exactly, and she does have Tide as well. Keep that in mind, guys. Now, the only unfortunate thing is that this Night Watch does have Warp, has not used Trait, but it was potentially a 3-ish Cypher Kite, because the Explorer does have a 50% page. And then we're going to see if this Meteorologist will end up opting in to push. Doesn't actually end up pushing him, and may be able to even get a double down here, because he does still have Warp. Very curious to see if we're going to end up using our Watch here.
Not using the Watch at all. Uses it right in his face, and unfortunately this time actually does get hit. Going for another pallet stun!
Just at this point, taunting the Hunter, wanting him to know. When in doubt, pallet stun it out. Now at this point, we will see the Meteorologist doing what typically happens if you do get double down, healing yourself right at a Cypher so that you can continue to decode. They do only have 2 Cyphers remaining, both of them being at 33%, as well as Explorer will be getting a second page here. And we will see the Enchantress get the free rescue. Will she be able to take the body block? And she ends up taking the body block.
Unfortunately, FO has no item now, however, and actually gets sucked back in, and he's now just gonna die ultimately. And Enchantress, it's just too dangerous for her to harass, so she's just gonna have to leave him and just be like, sorry man, you're just gonna have to die. And now they're gonna have to try to play for the tie.
Yep. Which it looks like here comes the Warp. Meteorologist, it will need to have to kite it out here. Ends up vaulting in his face.
Mind games.
Ends up getting Terror Shock in the process. And the good thing is basement is not here, but that was an and basement
Basement
is
is
here. I
here.
lied, completely lied. It
Getting
may be filet
basement.
mignon, chopped cheddar cheese for these survivors. Keep in mind they will pop one of the last two ciphers. They do have Explorer digging for a page right now.
That
Only thing
accessory
is
is so cool.
Enchantress. Yeah, I agree with you. Enchantress does have a Sui build, so she cannot go in for the rescue. And one of the ciphers that was 30% was Graveyard. So they will have to push over to Corner House, and Explorer will have to put a page in. And I'm very curious, again, both of these teams, or both of these, survivors do have borrowed time when this Explorer goes in for the rescue. The question is do they just pop it and try to go for the draw to lessen the burden on the Team Fireworks Hunter, knowing Warp will not be in play? Or will they send in the Explorer to go on an impossible mission for this rescue?
This Explorer is actually going in way too late, so I feel like he's just probably just gonna try to feed Tinnitus for this Night Watch. And ultimately, I feel like he should have just stayed at the Cypher, and they should have just popped it, because there was no warp at play, and they honestly potentially could have had the Explorer at gate, and could have pushed for the gate, and this actually could have been a two-man, but unfortunately, we're gonna see this Explorer now get chased.
Which at this point, it looks like the Night Watch does know that the Cypher is primed, so he actually may be able to wait for Warp to get up, which that's exactly what he's going to do. Very curious to see what the Explorer, option is here.
Oh!
And they end up popping!
Popping gets Terror Shock. Or, well, not even Terror Shock, just gets straight up hit.
With the tension, very curious to see what the game plan here is now.
Wow.
They will be working on the gate, but Warp will be up. So,
And the Enchantress knows this, so she's already opting to get off of the gate, but unfortunately,
at this point,
it's
there's not
already
really
too
much
late.
you can do. She still does have FIWO in play.
Oh.
It will not end up using it with one stack, almost two. Unfortunate by these survivors kind of making a split-second decision that did cost them the one-man. Amazing job by this Night Watch, capitalizing on this, completely saving all of his ability, waiting for Warp to come up. I think the best chance for these survivors was just to pop the Cypher and already have somebody on gate at that point, knowing that Explorer is not 007. He cannot go in for a rescue that late with no tide. It's just unfortunate, but again, amazing job by this GG Hunter, not hesitating and capitalizing on the survivor's mistake.
No, and honestly, I feel like that first kite could have been a little bit longer, even though this FO did do a really good job on getting those pallet stuns. Like, there was just a really bad chance because for that second watch, he just watched right in the hunter's face. And you can't do that because with the FO watch, I can't remember if it's exactly 34 or 36 meters on the radius of the first watch, but it is fairly large. And I feel like this FO could have watched at a much more safer distance almost. And because of that, he just wouldn't have wasted that watch. And honestly, I feel like you mentioned earlier, Numer, they honestly could have popped it and just had the Explorer set up for gate, because by then there was no warp, and you would have had to force the Night Watch, who is still at Dancing Geisha, to use stacks to get over to the gate. And honestly, I feel like even if they didn't get that two-man, I feel like one of them definitely would have escaped if that Night Watch was able to catch up. But I feel like honestly it was closer to a two-man. But if they wanted to do that safe play, they honestly had to have they should have waited. Like, they should have had the
I
Explorer go in sooner. And they also, with that pop, the pop got messed up, as we saw the Enchantress did ping sorry in game, because ultimately, while he was falling down, I'd say if he was more down, if you wanted to pop then, I mean, you can ensure he gets to Graveyard with the speed boost, and that
let me
would have
actually explain
likely
it.
guaranteed
Not
the
to cut you
one.
off, Abby, but let me explain. He actually did end up vaulting, and I think that's when the Explorer may have called for the pop, but Night Watch's ability sucked him out of the vaulting
Yeah,
ending animation of it, and they ended up popping as soon as he vaults. Very unfortunate, as the tram did just reach Graveyard as well, which they did have, I believe, dungeon at Fake Gate. So I
it
mean,
was fake, yes.
they had a lot of options I think they just kind of pulled the trigger a little bit, not realizing Night Watch can do that, can kick you out of that animation. I think that was probably the game changer for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, that pop was just it just got messed up, and we do see that happen a lot, and it just that was honestly the game-changing point because that Enchantress was not able to force that gate open, and Warp was unfortunately up. So that Night Watch did actually play it fairly well.
Yeah, I believe so. But anyways, guys, we will be jumping into the GG Hunter going against the no, actually the GG Survivors going against the Team Firework Hunter. Going into round 2, second half, we will be playing on Every Sleeping. In the first 2 bands will be Priestess and Embalmer. So I think at this point, the Hunter for Team Firework knows if they do not get a 4 kill here, it will be game over. And we will see that these GG survivors will opt into the Hullabaloo ban, allowing Goatman to be ran, which is very, very interesting. And we will
Going on
see
this map has a
Greaves.
high potential for that 4K, and we're actually going to see that Gravekeeper Magician lock. I think they're purposely letting out that Goatman, telling that Hunter, yeah, you can go Goatman, but we have survivors that will directly counter you. So we're going to make your life a lot more harder and a lot more harder to get that 4K.
100%. And we probably will see a lot of Sui builds just to guarantee that one man. And there goes Knight, which is a very, wild card ban, which we do see from Goatmans. So this still is a potential play. But more than likely, we will see an off meta pick, especially with that Priestess ban. You don't really see a lot of Goatmans banning her. And there's a reason for that. So at this point, though these survivors for GG can go hard Goatman
Barmaid.
counters, you might as well go off meta counters just because it doesn't look like they'll play them. And like you said, Barmaid was the third chosen survivor, not Seer, which looks like Team Fireworks Survivor won't even ban him, and they end up going with Dancer.
I thought he was actually going to ban the Seer. They can actually pick a Seer now to have that support for that Barmaid drink, but actually we're
Oh,
going to opt for the Batter.
guaranteeing a one man. Knowing they have slow Cypher Rush, they may have a strategy here, guys, that we don't know about. I'm very excited to see what they do here, though, as Batter is one of the highest probably picked and chosen characters when it comes to off meta and rank, and changes the game so much as far as win rate wise. I mean, me personally, it doesn't hurt to have a good Batter main in your lobby.
No, it's really nice. I honestly miss the Batter meta because he was really good and he can just get distance, and that's honestly really nice with harasser because there's a lot of harassers where like you're forward, yes, you are still essentially getting distance with that stun, but with Batter, however, compared to the other harassers, you physically push them back and you allow yourself to just keep on running and keep on getting that distance. What do you think they're gonna go for Hunter
I
based
think
off
with
these bans?
Hunter, based off of these bans, they're definitely going to go with an off meta. I mean, honestly, if Cleric wasn't globally banned, I would assume it'd be her with the Dancer ban. We still may see something like Geisha, or who else gets counted. The thing is the Embalmer ban is really throwing me off.
I know. We're gonna see that dream which I was mentioning earlier,
Oh,
actually.
which is kind of a wild card to pick here. I guess not allowing the Embalmer just so that they don't guarantee a draw. But with this type of team comp, who would you chase first? I think Magician may have to
I
be the
s-
best route here, or maybe even better. I'm not sure.
I'd say you would honestly probably opt either you would run patroller, and I'd say you would honestly probably opt to chase that Batter, because he can only stun one leech. He can only stun one follower. Or you would honestly go for the barmaid, let her like get that drink off, like try to let her get that drink, and then you just patroller her and you just down her.
Yeah, that may have to be their best plan here. The thing is depending on how they use Batter, that will be crucial. But I think with the Dream Witch pick here, like you had said earlier, mentioning her, I think this is a kind of go big or go home. And that's exactly the type of situation the Team Firework Hunter is in. It's a 4K or you lose. So I think going against a slow team comp, having Dream Witch, she may even opt into the Blink first hit. I'm not really too sure as the first trade. but I'm very
I feel like
excited to
it's
see
gonna be
this gameplay.
Patroller, because with Patroller, that way you can try to negate or avoid, I'd say, the batter harass, because he'll be, you know, every so often he'll get that little animation cancel because of the dog. Or, honestly, that just works better into Barmaid, because you eliminate that distance she's trying to gain by making the dog do the little shake animation when you sit there and you have to shake your leg for a second.
And we
And that
also could have
way, you can
saw,
swap the blink as well later on.
with those bans, we also could have saw an Ivy. That was one that I didn't mention. I mean, you could have saw a lot of different team comps. We could even have seen a Hermit. But
Mm-hmm.
jumping straight into this gameplay, you will see that she will immediately go chase the barmaid over here at Corner House. I want to see if the leech gets hit by the tram. Nope, it does not.
I thought he was
But
going
they
to as well.
but they are wearing the Tomy skin, so I'm very excited to see how they play it here. Barmaid going over to the other window, very smart by their play. Ends up
Can
vaulting a
actually
little
vault
bit
into,
later.
gonna vault into the leech, but we still have main body going right into the barmaid. Actually misses the hit, but we do have the leech right there as well.
Ends up getting hit, but is immediately going to drink. So amazing job by this barmaid, transitioning away from the main body as well. Kind of not allowing her, but this Dream Witch is very, very smart, knowing that they're going to transition away, immediately moves their leech follower to get that infinite speed as fast as possible. And we do see that she is running a Sui build, so they kind of expected her to get chased. Ends up getting dogged, trying to get in that second drink. But I
Actually was
believe
able to officially mix though.
and ends up getting the second drink off. At this point, they're in a really tough scenario for this Dream Witch. Kind of going for the hard counter with a Sui build as well. Barmaid playing this very, very well, going all the way from Corner House to Fate Gate, going over to S Pallet, and going back over to Fate Gate. So amazing job at this point. Ciphers are, it's looking like a 3-cipher kite. May even switch, it looks like, I believe.
I think that they're just gonna honestly probably have to switch because this barmaid has already just bought so many time, like so much time, and even though she is already out of item, she can just like just open up a chest and just get another item, and so we're actually
That's
gonna
exactly
see
what
the
she's gonna opt
gravekeeper
into
get
doing.
the gravekeeper's actually gonna get chased at graveyard.
Ends up dropping the pallet early. And she is putting pressure on this barmaid. Looks like she did end up getting a pocket watch out of the chest that she opened, as Abby had said previously. And these GG survivors are playing this really, really well. They are utilizing the 3 ciphers being popped, as well as working on a new one. Keep in mind, there are 3 leeches on the field right now, so this still could go any way. Especially with the patroller already coming back up. Walking away from the batter and going back over to the barmaid, I believe, may switch to blink here. Ends up wasting their ability.
But uses the watch efficiently, therefore just not allowing that Dream Witch to get that free hit. Which, again, that's just really bad for this Dream Witch because there is one cipher that's at 94. So essentially they're at 2 ciphers, which one of the ciphers is being worked on. But there are a lot of leeches out on the field, and there is the ability for blink. So we really need these survivors to start de-leeching because the thing with Dream Witch is the more leeches that are out, the more pressure she can just keep on applying, and that's just gonna make the survivor's job just a whole lot harder.
I don't believe the viewers can see the stream, the gameplay.
Really?
Yeah, I don't believe they can see the gameplay right now.
Oh, well, you guys are just gonna have to take our word for it. That's kind of odd. We're gonna have to.
I believe I'm not sure if the streamer fell asleep or not, but you're just gonna have to listen word by word, guys. And at this point, we're gonna have 2 ciphers remaining, one at 70%, one at 50%. Nobody has been shared. The magician is getting chased at Fate Gate. Ends up using an amazing wand, having an accessory I wish I had. Still transitioning out. Nice. And we will see the blink get used in here, and there will be their first down with the last cipher already being at 70%. And at this point, with only 1 leech on the field, they are in a very good position as the Gravekeeper still does have Tide in use. There goes the second leech coming onto the field here, while Barmaid is going through another chest. That will be her 3rd chest. There goes the Tide. And there goes the fake out. And it looks like Magician is lagging, but they're going to have to end up popping it. He lags out of the
Magician is
game.
lagging really bad.
And the Dream Witch is going to take advantage of that end game, and that will be his second chair. So this may be even a draw. I know this is a 4K or loss scenario, but this Dream Witch may be able to put a lot of pressure on these gates. They did already switch from Trump Card Patroller to Blink. So essentially, as long as these survivors play very, very patient and don't push the gates, they could potentially still get a 3 escape, potentially a draw. And it looks like the barmaid will be getting caught out, but still has flywheel in use. Ends up swinging through the pallet, but does not get the hit. Amazing job by these mind games right now. And ends up...
Unfortunately gets hit. And luckily enough, this magician
job.
actually is able to pick up, and the hunter actually does not know where this magician is at all. So therefore, we're actually not going to have this magician get paired. Excuse me, not paired. Chaired, but we unfortunately are going to have this barmaid get chaired right at the gate with the gravekeeper. And we have both the survivors on this gate, actually, so they need to rotate out.
Yeah, with the magician getting picked up, are using his self-heal and already pushing the gate, it looks like they may be able to get a 3 escape. It depends if she's able to switch to the batter's leech in time. Ends up switching to a different one, which may have cost her the draw. It depends if she can hit this blink here or not. Ends up getting pushed back by the batter. Very, very unfortunate. Ends up missing the blink as well, and we will see a 3 escape from these GG survivors. Very, very well played. It almost felt like they knew they were going against a Dream Witch, Abby.
No, they honestly played that really well, and the Dream Witch unfortunately messed up early game, giving that first hit with the leech hit, and that just allowed the barmaid to not only rotate out, but also just allowed her to not get pressured whatsoever. Therefore, she was able to not only get that drink off, but mix up another one, and that's when the patroller was used, but at that rate, the patroller meant absolutely nothing, so it just really ensured that 3 cipher kite, and even though ciphers were moving a little bit slower after that third cipher, it didn't matter at that point. The thing about Dream Witch is you either capitalize really hard early game with all that pressure and you just have a quick down due to the patroller, or you just capitalize late game with that pressure. But because it is ever sleeping, honestly, it's not that small of a map compared to, I'd say, like your church or even your arms factor, which would you see her a lot. And because of that, because it isn't ever sleeping, there is elevation differences. The survivors are able to efficiently use that tram to keep gaining distance, and the gates are not too close to each other. That Dream Witch was not able to, apply that necessary pressure, and also just got kited genuinely by that barmaid, and that's just kind of what sold her fate. And even though that magician did lag out, as we evidently saw, luckily enough, it didn't really matter because she not only lost the magician he was able to get up, but the survivors just played it really well, just kept on putting pressure, and they got the other gate, aka the graveyard gate. They were over there, but they just completely rotated towards the corner house gate and got that gate open entirely.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would keep in mind, I know that the stream, the viewers couldn't see it, but essentially the barmaid was able to get 2 drinks off, got hit by the first leech, played it really well, rotated from corner house over to fake gate. The patroller did come out, but the barmaid was able to get the second drink off in time at full HP, because if you don't know, it is very, very quick. And then at that point, getting hit by that patroller didn't matter because she was able to heal and was running a suicide build, still had flywheel in play. At that point, we had 4 survivors up. It was already 3 ciphers, all at 80%. And then at that point, we saw a Dream Witch switch over to Gravekeeper. Gravekeeper doing an amazing job switching to his shovels early. Then we see the Mage switch. Kind of just, you could see the panic in the Hunter's eyes, essentially knowing they needed a 4K, but was already getting 3 cipher kited. It was a lot of pressure. It's hard not to fold under those certain conditions, but they still ended up securing a 1-man. Potentially almost could have gotten a 2 with the Magician going up to probably 300 MS. Maybe they're EU. We don't know. Any final thoughts, Abby, as that will conclude a 2-0 win for GG?
That was really well played. I'm honestly still really impressed by that Night Watch game because at first we were kind of shocked because he was getting kited by an FO who is, I'd say, inherently a hard chase for the Night Watch, but unfortunately the FO just didn't rotate properly and also did not properly use the watch. And because of that, it was just honestly a catalyst for disaster. And unfortunately, that Explorer went into save way too late in the pop, the accidental messed up pop, but because you really don't see 4Ks from Night Watches often at all, let alone do you see them opt to chase the rescuer. But honestly, well played from all sides, especially that clerk match. I'm still thinking about that clerk match and how even though despite the terror shock and the hunter not able to find the mechanic, it still worked out really, really well for the survivors. And I'm really happy we got the Dream Witch game we wanted ultimately. It was unfortunate it didn't go as I'd say well for the hunter, but the hunter still gave it their all and honestly did what they could. It was just very unfortunate that the first hit was a leech hit, and that's kind of what just really screwed over the Dream Witch because you don't really ideally want your first hit to be that leech hit, especially early game.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, like I said, they already had a lot of pressure on them. And then going into that team comp, it almost felt like the survivors knew that the hunter was going to pick Dream Witch. So at that point, really, who do you chase? Right? Barmaid is probably the most optimal due to the Gravekeeper and the batter having slow Cypher Rush, and it's just hard essentially to chase them. It's just the Barmaid played really well, and the Magician followed right back up as well, allowing the last Cypher to almost be prime by the time they got cheered. So, I mean, it was amazing by both ends. Both teams played really, really well, especially watching that first, Goatman gameplay. But we appreciate each and every one of you guys coming to the stream today. There will be more games tomorrow, so make sure to tune in. I'm Numer,
And
and
I'm
that's
out.
Abby. Exactly.